Let me call this hot take the revenge of the senior status federal court judges against Donald Trump. Only they have the long view. Only they have the historical context. Only they have the legacy to take on Donald Trump. We just have our latest example with Judge William Young, District Court, Massachusetts, appointed by Ronald Reagan, 84 years old, a trial lawyer's trial lawyer, trial judge, loves trials. And guess where the very first trial against Donald Trump this term, despite 400 cases that have been filed against him, the first trial concluded on Monday in front of Judge Young. And he had a scathing rebuke after listening to the evidence, listening to the witnesses about the National Institute of Health and their depraved, racist cutting of funding to the Black and brown and LGBTQ plus community. To Judge Young, the presiding judge, ruling from the bench, it was the most blatant, racist act by a government he has ever seen in 40 years. Now, those words resonate with me, and they're very similar to words we heard with, that was the first trial. What about the first temporary restraining order way back in January issued in Seattle by a senior status judge named Judge Coffenor? Judge Coffenor similarly said when Donald Trump tried to take away birthright citizenship in the 14th Amendment by way of a slash of a pen and an executive order, Judge Coffenor said, I've been on the bench for 40 years. I've never seen a more blatant violation of the Constitution in my life. You got Judge Coffenor up there. He's in his 80s, senior status. You got Judge Young. I'll tell you all about that trial in his comments about Trump's racism and the administration's racism. And then you got right now, pending as we're talking, Judge Breyer, 83 years old, senior status judge in San Francisco, brother of a Supreme Court justice. He's the one that kicked it all off recently with a temporary restraining order against the Trump administration for illegal acts related to the National Guard and its takeover in California by Trump. It is not a coincidence that the 80-year-olds are fighting back. And I think it is cosmic justice and turnabout is fair play that while the MAGA in Congress are busy trying to get to the bottom if Joe Biden, if the elevator went to the top, so to speak, while he was president, at the point, like, who cares? I mean, I believe he was competent enough to do the job, almost every day. I'll leave it at that. But it's the revenge of the 80-year-olds. These people are all as old or older than Joe Biden, and they're with it. Judge Young tries more cases now than some of his younger brethren on the court. Let's get to the ruling in Massachusetts. What happened? The National Institute of Health, because of Donald Trump's attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion, decided to defund healthcare research in the areas that help Black and brown, diverse communities along with the LGBTQ plus community. The evidence demonstrated that was arbitrary and capricious. It violated the Constitution and due process and equal protection. And to Judge Young, it was the most blatant, palpably racist thing he's ever seen. Don't take my word for it. Those were his words from the bench on Monday. Now, eventually, I'm going to get a written order from, not me personally, but Judge Young is going to issue. But he ruled from the bench. This was the first trial of 400 cases. We're coming up on my number. I said we were going to have 4,000 cases against the Trump administration before this thing's all said and done. We're getting there. But this was the first trial. And as soon as I get my hot little hands on his order, I will come back on Legal AF and I will talk to you about it. In the meantime, hey, remember, you're on Legal AF. You like this kind of content? You like this kind of update? Trial lawyer telling you about trial things at the intersection of law and politics? I'm Michael Popok, and you're here. Hit the subscribe button. Let me read to you because he read his decision, or he said his decision after the trial from the bench. Here's what he reportedly said, Judge Young. He said, this policy to cut off the NIH funding represents racial discrimination and discrimination against America's LGBTQ plus community. That's what it is, Judge Young said. I would be blind not to call it out. My duty is to call it out, and I do so. I have never seen a record, Judge Young continued, where racial discrimination was so palpable. I've sat on this bench for 40 years. Sounds just like Judge Kavanaugh in Seattle. And I've never seen governmental racial discrimination like this. And I confine my remarks to the record to healthcare. He also noted that the administration's targeting of the LGBTQ plus research. He said that was palpably clear. These directives and the set of terminated grants are also designed to frustrate, to stop research that may bear on the health. We're talking about healthcare, the health of Americans of our LGBTQ plus community. That's appalling. That's appalling. I do not think it is a coincidence that senior status judges are flexing their muscle. They got nothing to lose. First of all, they are by and large moderates, right? Whether you're Harvey Wilkinson on the Fourth Circuit Court, who issued 2 stinging rebukes against Donald Trump in the Abrego Garcia case that really stung the administration, eventually got Abrego Garcia back, that and the Supreme Court decision. But when the Harvey Wilkinsons of the world, who basically step off of Mount Rushmore for moderate, Reagan-style, conservative Republicans, can't be accused of being rhinos, Marxist, leftist, activist, when they step down from Mount Olympus, the bench, and they take on Donald Trump, it means something. It resonates. And Donald Trump can't go after him the way he can everybody else. A younger Biden-appointed judge, Obama-appointed judge, Clinton-appointed judge, Trump goes after. Field day. Doesn't even know who they are. Marxist, radicalist, activist, weren't elected. I was elected. He wasn't. Why does he or she get to rule about me? These judges, Kavanaugh, Breyer, Young, their rulings resonate. Beryl Howell used to be the chief judge, soon to be senior status in D.C. When they speak softly, but carry a huge stick, club. And they're using it against Donald Trump. They got lifetime appointments. Their senior status, although what's going to happen next. Donald Trump's going to go after and try to cut off and have Congress cut off somehow senior status judges, right? Deny them the ability to hear cases because the senior status judges, have the, what's the word my mother used to say? They have the effets. They have the fill in the blank. They don't care. They're just going to rule on the law and the facts. Their time on this earth is limited. They're going to be fair and balanced because they got nothing else to lose. And they're not going to be coerced or pressured to have their independence compromised by Donald Trump. Forget that the youngest shall lead us or the meek shall inherit the earth. The senior status federal judges are if we're the foot soldiers protecting the Constitution, they're the generals. We need to follow them into the burning building of the Trump administration. So my hat goes off, Profile and Courage Day, to Judge William Young, appointed by Ronald Reagan, who on Monday, after a full bench trial, had a scathing rebuke of the Trump administration, calling them out for what they are, racists. When you hear they're getting to the bottom of diversity, equity, and inclusion to eliminate it, just put that into Google Translate and it should come back, or ChatGPT, it should come back racist. When they say they're going to, let's continue. When they say they're going to get to the bottom of voter fraud, translate that to voter suppression. They're going after blue states. And what did we ever do to them? All blue states do is give. All they do is contribute. They don't take. They give. They give to the economy. Most blue states contribute more than red states to the economy. Tech, blue states. Arts, blue states. Education, blue states. And we don't ask for anything in return other than to be left alone. In liberty, right? And justice for all, as we the people, as part of this great union. That's all we ask for. But no. We've got to try to drag down the blue states to the level of the red states and the MAGA states so that the entire country's illiteracy rate goes up. Infant mortality rate goes up. Childhood poverty rate goes up. Murder rates go up. That's what they won't rest until they level the blue states. I don't mean the playing field. I mean the blue states. And we need judges like Judge Young to do what he's doing, and Judge Coffador, and Judge Breyer, and Judge Beryl Howell. It's to set us straight and be that guiding light we need to protect our constitutional republic. I'll continue to follow it all right here. Look, while you're here, a couple of things. Hit the subscribe button. We're trying to get to 700,000. We can do it with your help. It matters. It keeps the programming coming. It keeps the contributors all together contributing here on Legal AF. Support the Legal AF podcast. Legal AF podcast. We need some more audio downloads, that's for sure. Help us with the rankings and the ratings there. Come on over to Legal AF, the podcast, wherever you get audio podcasts from. I have a new podcast. It's called The Intersection. What else? Every Tuesday night at 8 p.m., you can watch it Eastern time on the Midas Touch Network. And there's a place to go download The Intersection and leave. I need those reviews. I'm going to put it nicely. 5-star reviews, please. If you feel that way, I need it. Yeah. In order to continue to grow that particular pro-democracy podcast called The Intersection. So until my next report, I'm Michael Popok. I'm Michael Popok, and I got some big news for our audience. Most of you know me as the co-founder of Midas Touch's Legal AF and the Legal AF YouTube channel, or as a 35-year national trial lawyer. Now, building on what we started together on Legal AF, I've launched a new law firm, the Popok Firm, dedicated to obtaining justice through compassionate and zealous legal representation. At the Popok Firm, we are focused on obtaining justice for those who have been injured or damaged by a life-altering event by securing the highest dollar recoveries. I've been tirelessly fighting for justice for the last 35 years, so my own law firm organically building on my Legal AF work just feels right. And I've handpicked a team of top-tier trial fighters and settlement experts throughout all 50 states known as big auto injury attorneys who have the know-how to beat heartless insurance companies, corporations, government entities, and their attorneys. Big Auto's attorneys working with my firm are rock stars in their respective states and collectively responsible for billions of dollars in recoveries. So if you or a loved one have been on the wrong side of a catastrophic auto, motor vehicle, rideshare, or truck accident, suffered a personal injury, or been the victim of medical malpractice, employment harassment or discrimination, or suffered a violation of your civil and constitutional rights, then contact the Popok Firm today at 1-877-POPOK-AF or by visiting my website at www.thepopokfirm.com and fill out a free case evaluation form. And if we determine that you have a case and you sign with us, we don't get paid unless you do. The Popok Firm, fighting for your justice every step of the way.